Okay, Paul, we are live. Please take it away.
Thank you, Ross. Good afternoon, everybody. Before we get started, we have a brief message from Jose for our Spanish-speaking viewers. Jose?
Hola, yo soy José Landaverde del Condado de Sonoma. Bienvenidos a esta sesión. En esta reunión, los oficiales le darán una actualización sobre los incendios y COVID-19. La presentación será en inglés y cuenta con interpretación en español. Para escuchar en español por Zoom, vaya a la parte de abajo de la pantalla a la derecha, donde verá el signo del globo identificado como interpretación y oprime para seleccionar español. También puede escuchar esta reunión en español a través de YouTube en el canal de Condado de Sonoma. El enlace está a la página del Condado de Sonoma. Gracias. Paul, back to you.
Hey, thank you, Jose. And I also want to say thank you to Julie and Daniel, who are Spanish translators today, as well as Holly and Jim, who are our ASL interpreters. Today is Monday, August 31st, and this is another in a series of news briefings that we have hosted since the beginning of the LNU Lightning Complex fires 14 days ago. Today's briefing also will feature some of our leaders in the fight against Walbridge and Myers fires in our region, but also we'll be including Dr. Sundari Mace, who will be answering questions about the COVID-19 pandemic. I'm Paul Gullickson, Communications Manager for the County of Sonoma, and your moderator once again. As always, this briefing is being broadcast on Facebook Live in English and live on YouTube in Spanish. Both the English and Spanish versions of this presentation will be posted and available on YouTube after we conclude. Today, I would like to again to remind everybody to just speak slowly. I know I'm not always following my own rules, but please speak slowly if possible for the sake of our interpreters. And so let's see, we'll start for an update on the latest on the fires. We'll start by going to CAL FIRE Incident Commander Sean Kavanaugh. Chief?
Yeah, well, good afternoon, and thank you for having us again on the Zoom meetings and getting information out on today. So for today on the LNU Lightning Complex, I'll go through what I've done in the past for the, I guess, basically the last 2 weeks with everybody and give a quick overview. Then I'm going to turn it over to Chief Jones and Chief Nichols for more of an operational update over there. So far today, we're sitting at, for the entire complex, 375,209 acres with a 63% containment on the entire complex. As far as Sonoma and the Walbridge fire, the Walbridge is at 54,940 acres, is 64% contained. And the best news of all is we keep saying the Myers is 99% contained. The Myers fire, we just have one engine over on a patrol, which is so a lot of the focus is over on the Walbridge fire as we move forward over there. As far as our resources that we have sitting over on the Walbridge fire right now, we have 117 engines that are assigned over there, 25 water tenders, 14 crews, and 29 dozers that are working that area over there. We get for a total on the entire complex for personnel wise, we still have 2,839 folks that are assigned. Couple things that have been taking place over on the Walbridge fire is we've shrunk up the evacuation orders as best tight as we can to the fire's edge. There's still a couple areas that we still have to work on, and we still have a few little problem areas over on the Walbridge as we move forward. As we start in with repopulation and lifting evacuation orders to warnings and then taking warnings out of to full repop, we've ran into, and it's important to get out, and we put it out 2 nights ago, a media release came out about hazard trees and just hazards going back into properties. We do have weakened trees that are starting to come down in the area. We have multiple falling teams that we've brought in to try to take care of some of those trees. But I ask the public, when you move back into your properties and you come in, please do a safety check of your properties. And if you find hazard trees, please get them flagged and make them known to you and your family. Those trees do get weak and they do come down and can cause destruction. So I ask everybody to make sure they're paying good attention to that. We've had fallen crews come through and they're dropping trees, and then drive out, they've had trees come back down behind them as they've gone through areas. So that's something everybody needs to really pay attention to. Also with the utilities, it's going to be, we're working hand in hand with all the utility companies. There are a lot of lines that are down, a lot of poles that have to be replaced. PG&E is in there, AT&T, different utility company, Frontier, that's over there. There's a lot of heavy equipment that has to be used on the narrow roads in some of the roads and streets around the wall bridge to be able to get those utilities back up and running. So we may get people back in their homes, but there's also going to be that equipment. So there may be delays on some of those roads that we get in just because of the heavy equipment, not only from utility companies, but also from our fire equipment that we have in there with the fire engines and water tenders and so forth. So there is a little bit of patience that are going to be needed to make sure that we get that area done. We're continuing also with our damage assessment. We had on our press release this morning, and those get updated almost hourly as they come up. When I just got on and checked our dashboards that we have with updated information for over there, we're looking at 252 destroyed properties. We have 19 that are damaged, and we have non-damaged in the fire perimeters, 468 that are non-damaged. So that's just for Sonoma. The total for the complex as of this afternoon was well over 1,400 for all 6 counties of properties that were damaged or destroyed for that area. We're making good progress. And Ben could probably talk about this. We do have an area out there to the west. If you have a map that's out there in Division Delta, it's a challenging area to try to tie in lines and to get from dozer lines to hand crewed lines to try to get those tied in. So that's going to be a long process probably to deal with that even after when the team's gone and turn it back over to the local Sonoma Lake NAP unit and their staff to be monitoring and looking at over there. And so that's the big picture over on the Hennessy side of things too. Things are looking well. We have one portion of the fire up in the north end towards Highway 16 that we're trying to really close off, and that's kind of the ending spot over here for the entire complex. We flew crews in there yesterday to try to work that out. So we're hoping to have some good news here in the next few days on that. We're feeling good about where we're going. There's a lot that has to be done in recovery wise for this entire complex. Just not, there's a lot to it when you have such a large incident. It takes a team effort, and there's still a lot of work that has to be done as moving forward here. We do have some weather changes coming in hot and dry. I ask the public to be very vigilant in what they're doing out there, especially working around the properties. What last thing we need is another fire to start up here. With that, I'd like to turn it over to Chief Jones for a quick message. Here she is.
Hello, and thank you for this opportunity to address all of you. I just wanted to say thank you to every single one of you and all of your staff and everyone that's listening in for your support. It's hard to believe that 15 days ago, we started this fire, and my gosh, we still have another few weeks ahead before Chief Kavanaugh and his team will leave, and then Chief Nichols and I will be here to support and continue to support the community. So I just wanted to say thank you. I am more than proud of all of our local government cooperators that helped fight the fight and get to where we're at. The number of saves that Chief Kavanaugh indicated is a direct result of all the hard work of all the personnel on the fire line. So thank you very much.
Yeah, we could turn that over to Ben now if we could for operational.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I just got back from a flight around the fire. Happy to report that the bulk of the fire area is looking really, really good. No noticeable smokes coming from the north end of the fire. Down the east side, as Chief Kavanaugh indicated, there is a little bit of work left to be done out at the base of Red Slide, and the fire is still consuming some material down below Mount Jackson, but within our containment lines, and crews are actively working on mop up over there. The majority of the smoke coming off the fire this afternoon is over in the Fox Mountain area between the end of Vackery and Mill Creek, and at that last portion of the fire that we ignited a backfire several days ago to button this thing up. So that's continuing to cook down. We're going to let it do its thing because it's within the control lines, and looking really good out here on the line today. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. We appreciate that report, and a lot of good news considering where we were a week ago. Let's go to Sergeant Juan Valencia, who give us a little bit more update on evacuations and repopulation. Sergeant?
Hello, thank you for having me again. So we were able to work obviously with CAL FIRE and getting some repopulation, Rio Nito, West Dry Creek area. Unfortunately, we still have 774 people under an evacuation order, and those are mainly impacted by the burn areas. So we are still continuing working with CAL FIRE, trying to make it safe, trying to get people back to their property or what's left of their property. So that's what we're really working on this week. CAL FIRE is still continuing to monitor hotspots in the area. And again, I just want to emphasize the trees. I know people want to get back home, but this is something that's going to impact our community a week from now and maybe months from now. So when the rain comes, that you could be driving down the street that's a burn area and it's been cleared, and a tree could fall down and, you know, not only fall in front of you and cause damage to your car or injure you, but it could kill a family member. So those are the things that we're taking into consideration. We want to be sure that people get back to their homes and make it safe. Power lines could be down, and just treat those as such. If you do see a power line down, you have to assume that it's hot. Don't touch it. Don't try to do anything. That's when you call 911 or you call personnel. We're still working. We still have checkpoints set up in the area. We're checking to make sure nobody's going in, nobody's coming out, that they're not supposed to be there. We're trying to keep it kind of locked down so fire personnel could go in there, and trying to keep people from entering and maybe breaking into houses and stuff like that. We haven't had any reports of any burglaries or lootings in that area, which is really good. We still continue to have allied agencies coming in as mutual aid. So we have those checkpoints, and then we have officers doing rover patrol, basically driving around the areas that have under an order, and if they find somebody in there, they're contacting them. We're not expecting any orders to be lifted today. We hope within the next couple of days to the couple weeks that everything kind of starts getting back to normal. We will be using Nixle for repop and reentry, and also social media platforms. Again, everything's bilingual, so it reaches our entire community. I want to thank the community again for their patience and understanding. We're kind of becoming experts at these fires and packing and getting things ready. But as it's been mentioned, we're in the beginning of fire season for us. We still have to be ready. Just because this fire is almost over, doesn't mean another one can't happen. So we still have to be ready. We still have to pay attention. And it's kind of one of those, have our bags ready to go in case something else does happen, that we're ready to go. It's one of those, it's a slow process. It's going to take some time. We've already had 2 big fires here. So we know the reentry and the repopulation, it's going to take time. It's going to take time to rebuild, and it's a long process and very difficult for people. And we just want to remind people to be kind to each other, to your neighbors, and just make sure you take care of yourself and your family and your kids. Kids are also having a hard time with first responder parents not being at home with them, being out. And them being evacuated from their home and having to do all their homework online now. So it's a little difficult, and it's challenging, not only for the kids, but also for everybody else that's involved. Thank you.
Thank you, Sergeant. Indeed, this would be a good time for people to get their go bag. It's, after all, still August, which is kind of scary. But next, we're going to go to Tennis Wick, our acting chief within our Emergency Operations Center, for an update. Tennis?
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Just to add a little detail to Chief Kavanaugh's report, and to thank them for the 468 greens, the structures that they did save. In damage assessment, we too often focus on what's lost, and I think it's really important to acknowledge the men and women on the fire line and the great work that they have done. Absolutely fantastic. To the information we are used to tracking, destroyed structures, 220, of which 122 are residences of one type or another. Moving to recovery operations. As of this morning, we've had 406 people register with the Federal Emergency Management Agency for individual assistance, 61 in Guerneville, 29 in Healdsburg, and 316 online. The local assistance centers are operational in Guerneville and Healdsburg. We are seeing good activity. As of 3 p.m. today, 20 people in Guerneville and 11 in Healdsburg. So now we're focusing on that shift from response to recovery. The fairground shelter and temporary evacuation point are now demobilized, and we're starting the cleanup operation there. The facility at Sonoma State University is just about there. We have one couple left. Their home is in a mandatory evacuation area, so we are arranging lodging for them, and then we will demobilize that. Our goal is to have the Emergency Operations Center itself demobilized by 5 p.m. tomorrow, Tuesday. That's our goal. And of course, part of our plan is to shift those ongoing operations, damage assessment, and a host of others to the agencies that will be responsible for carrying those missions out until the incident ends. End of report.
Thank you, Tennis. Now I'd like to recognize our Congressman who's with us, Congressman Mike Thompson. Congressman?
Paul, thank you very, very much. And thank you to everyone who's just doing a fantastic job. I can't tell you how much we all appreciate everything that everyone is doing. I've briefed up on this issue before about the National Disaster Declaration and what it means to constituents. Bottom line, individuals can get financial help, businesses and nonprofits can get financial help through the SBA, and our state, local governments and tribal governments can get public assistance help for infrastructure that's been destroyed. I'll just tell you, instead of going over it all again today, we've spent a number of days briefings on it. I'll just let folks know, Paul, that tomorrow on Tuesday, I'm going to be having 2 webinars, and one at 2 p.m. for agricultural producer disaster assistance. So anybody in the ag community that has suffered damage should try and participate in that. They have to pre-register at agdisaster.help@mail.house.gov. And then at 6 p.m., there'll be a disaster webinar for individuals and businesses other than ag producers. And they too have to register, and they can register at firedisaster.help@mail.house.gov. And we'll have representatives from FEMA and the SBA on those webinars to answer any questions and provide direction as to how people should proceed. So again, thank you to everyone. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow on the webinars.
Thank you, Congressman. So again, that's at 2 o'clock and 6 o'clock tomorrow. The 6 o'clock one is for individuals and businesses, and 2 o'clock for our agriculture industry. And I imagine they can find more information on your website about those seminars.
Absolutely. They can go online to my website, and we'll have it posted there.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. I now want to recognize our Chair, Susan Gorn, from the Board of Supervisors. Chair Gorn.
Good afternoon. I'm sorry I'm a few minutes late. Special board meeting today. Thank you all once again for all that you're doing. It disheartens me to even receive the damage estimates that seem to be as low as they are, but I know that that's a long journey for everyone. anyone who lost a home. So our hearts are with you. Thank you, Director Wick and CAL FIRE for moving forward on damage estimates. And could we just clean up the air? Could you put that fire out? I know you're doing the best you can.
Oh, yes. Yeah. While we're doing everything else. Yeah, that's, we have air quality issues.
Hey, Paul, this is Sean. If I can address that real quick.
Sure.
So the smoke that you're seeing that's coming in the valley, it's not from these two fires. It's actually from the August complex up in the Mendocino that is coming down. That's where the last couple of days we've been socked in. It's actually coming from the Mendocino National Forest is where a lot of the smoke's coming
Thanks
in.
for the clarification. Really appreciate that. I know that the Santa Cruz fire is contributing to air quality in the Central Valley. And okay, so everybody just go and blow that smoke north.
Unfortunately, we're going to get some north winds, and so it's probably going to blow down in here pretty good. We have an air resources advisor we've had here for, and they're monitoring that, but it's continue to probably be pretty poor air quality to fires.
Yeah, I think.
And I missed the beginning of the briefing, but so how close are you to putting out the fire in Mendocino? And again, oh, that's awful up there.
We're not involved in the fire up on the Mendocino. It's up on the Mendocino National Forest under federal DPA, which is Federal Direct Protection Area. So we're
okay. Thank you.
Thank you both. I want to recognize Supervisor Linda Hopkins from the 5th District. Supervisor.
Thank you. You know, I am in a place of gratitude today, which is a strange thing to say when we still have 700 plus folks who are under mandatory evacuation and that we have over 100 homes that were lost in Sonoma County. And I'm so grateful because it could have been worse. I'm grateful because the communities of Hacienda and Rio Nito and even some areas of Sweetwater Springs were able to return home for the first time after nearly 12 days of being evacuated over the weekend. And I'm just incredibly grateful for the heroic actions and decisions of Chief Jones, Chief Kavanaugh, Chief Nichols, as well as some of the other leadership that we have locally in CAL FIRE, Marshall Turbeville, Joe Peterson. I know that they were working around the clock, and also our local amazing fire chiefs, Chief Hine, Chief Baxman, Chief Krausman, Chief Lynn, Chief Frothcarry, and others who came from all around the county to provide support. Not just them, but every single person who was out, you know, boots on the ground, hopping on the fire engines, going out there to protect our small towns in the lower Russian River, the CAL firefighters, the mutual aid who came from around the state and beyond, the volunteer firefighters, the perhaps unofficial volunteer firefighters, the Cazadero dozer crew, the second responders, the folks who fed the Cazadero dozer crew and dropped off food to our first responders, the folks who put up beautiful signs all along River Road that you can drive by and see now, thanking all of our first responders for saving our small towns, the peace officers, including mutual aid from other counties, and on the county side, our fantastic Emergency Operations Center, which has been going 24/7, Director Godley, Director Wick, so grateful for your service, and all of the amazing county staff who stepped up to focus on food and care and sheltering and watershed recovery and local assistance center and everything else. And, you know, I think whenever there's a fire, we always think back to 2017. And I remember in 2017 being so proud of how West County stood up because we weren't on fire, right? We opened our doors to evacuees. We fed them. We wanted to take care of everything else, you know, everybody else in the county. And I just want to say thank you to everywhere else in the county that was not on fire this time, who did the exact same thing that we did in 2017. You opened your doors in the midst of a pandemic to your neighbors in West County. You let them camp on, you know, in your lawns, in your guest bedrooms, sometimes in your driveway, in an RV. And I'm just so grateful and so proud to be part of a community. Because at the end of the day, you know, the fire stops burning and what you're left with is ash and people. And it's the people that get you through it. And it's the people that's going to get us through the rest of these 2 months of fire season we still have to go, that's going to get us through the pandemic, and heaven forbid, whatever else 2020 can throw at us, because I'm not even going to make any jokes at this point, because I think that every joke that we make, 2020 takes it as a dare. So thank you so much. I feel honored to serve in a community where everyone comes together in a pinch, and just sending my gratitude to all the leaders who are on this call today.
Thank you so much, Supervisor Hopkins. That was indeed all those names. That was a true Hall of Fame of the Walbridge and Myers fires, and those should be all recognized. Well, speaking of air quality and our pandemic, I want to move on to Dr. Sundari Mace, who's going to give us an update of where we are with the COVID-19 pandemic. Dr. Mace?
Yeah, thank you very much, Paul, and good afternoon to everybody. Good to hear that things are going the correct direction with the fires. So let me give the brief update on COVID-19 cases. So as of yesterday, August 30th, we have 5,718 confirmed cases, 1,949 are active, 3,654 have recovered. We now have 80 deaths, an increase of 2 reported in the previous 24 hours. We have now done more than 101,000 coronavirus tests, an increase of 1,149 in the last 24 hours. So as everybody realizes, on Friday, California Governor Newsom released new criteria that guides counties in reopening safely based on science and the data. The new blueprint for a safer economy goes into effect today. It builds on the lessons learned over the past 6 months and acknowledges the need for taking slow and deliberate steps in light of how widespread COVID-19 is in the state. I'd like to share with you some of the key takeaways regarding the new blueprint for a safer economy and how it impacts Sonoma County. All counties now fall into one of 4 colored tiers that identify the degree to which COVID-19 is present in their geographic area. Purple means the virus is widespread. Red means the virus level in the community is substantial. Orange indicates that COVID levels are moderate, and yellow signifies that the presence of the virus is minimal. Before opening different business sectors and public spaces, each county must now demonstrate its progress in reducing the spread of the virus based on 2 key metrics. The first is the number of COVID-19 cases per 100,000 county residents per day. And the second is a percentage of COVID-19 diagnostic tests that are positive over the total number of tests that have been done. The higher the number of cases, new cases per day per 100,000, and the test positivity rate in any county, the darker the color tier they're placed. Right now, Sonoma County is among 38 California counties that are in the darkest purple tier. That's tier 1, which means that we have more than an average of 7 new cases per day per 100,000 residents over the past week. And Sonoma County's current calculation is pending, but for information purposes, we've had 600 new cases in the past 7 days alone. And we have more than an average of 8% COVID-19 diagnostic tests per day over the past week that are positive. Our test positivity rate is 10.9%. Effective today, for Sonoma County to open up more, we need to show that we meet the criteria for the less restrictive red tier for a full week. Beginning next Monday, however, we must show stability or improvement for a 3-week period before moving to a less restrictive tier. And right now, as I'd mentioned, we are in tier 1 or the purple tier. So how does this affect Sonoma County today? Well, as of the governor's orders and after our own review of our Sonoma County data, we've decided to move forward with hair salons and barbershops that may now operate indoors following the safety and hygiene and guidelines. Also, we are moving forward as the governor's recommendations with shopping malls that may be open at a maximum of 25% capacity. This is indoor malls. Food courts and common areas remain closed. And again, as I said last Friday, we looked at our data and realized that very few cases have occurred in Sonoma County in these particular areas, which is why it's safe for us to move ahead and open these sectors at this time. Visit covid19.ca.gov to learn more about the blueprint for a safer economy and to track Sonoma County's performance in reducing the spread. You can also go to socoemergency.org to look at our own data on our website. So we have our community question for the day. Now that hair salons are open, when will gyms open? Right now, gyms may operate outdoor only and with modifications. When Sonoma County moves into the red tier, that's tier 2, gyms may be open for limited indoor operations. I wanted to take a moment to let everyone know that we read your comments on social media. We look forward to hearing from you and addressing your concerns. Stay safe. I will provide another briefing to you on Wednesday. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mason. Would you mind repeating, you went out there just for a moment, what is our positivity rate at this point? I know we have to be between 5 and 8%. And where are we?
Yeah, we're at 10.9% right now per our data. And yeah, we need to be under 8% to, again, not meet that metric for purple.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. Okay, we're going to go to questions from the media and also questions from our audience viewing us on Facebook Live. If you have a question, please feel free to leave it in the comments box and we'll try to get to your question. First, we'll start with Mary Callahan from the Press Democrat. Mary?
Hi, this is for the fire chiefs. I am wondering if you could talk to me or talk a little bit to the world here about the residual fire and activity within the fire perimeter, kind of in the interior, and what we can expect to see over the coming weeks. I understand that there is likely to be some continual activity or risk inside the interior of the perimeter for quite a long time.
Sure. So as you're aware, the fire area contains a large percentage of timber and specifically redwood stands. And so there's a heavy accumulation of fuels. The predominant area that burned, we don't have fire history back to the 1940s. So there is definitely a buildup of vegetation on the landscape in there. And so those heavier accumulations of vegetation on the landscape are going to take longer to burn down. So the smoke that you're seeing in the air, as I said earlier, the north end of the fire is looking really good. But as we transition into that more timber vegetation model on the south end of the fire area, that's where you're going to see smoke for an extended period of time. And as far as the interior, obviously the first priority for us is to contain the perimeter to stop the spread of the fire, the forward rate of spread of the fire. And so that has been done. So we're working from that perimeter back into the interior of the fire, because the closer to the line those heat sources are, the better chance that we may have an escape. So we have to make sure that the perimeter of the fire is cold before we work into the inside of the 54,000 acres.
And so that could take until the rainy season? That could be like weeks and months to make sure all of that's out?
Yes. So the redwood stumps that are out there, the fire can travel deep underground. And so that's going to take a concerted effort on our part to dig that out and get the water to the heat, the source of the heat, because the aircraft, the helicopters may help cool it, but unless you dig it up and get to the source of that heat, it will continue to come back up. So we're going to see over the next month plus periods of time where areas where we thought were out are going to resurface because the fire will reestablish in that heavier material.
Thank you so much.
Okay, I also just want to remind our media friends to go ahead and raise your hand if you have a question. Let's go to Martin Espinoza.
Hello, everybody. Hi, Dr. Mace. I do want to ask Dr. Mace about the new reopening plan that the governor announced. But before that, I hear that there's a really big coronavirus outbreak among staff at Santa Rosa Memorial Hospital. And they've been playing a key role in terms of hospitalizing patients. At least 13 cases among caregivers. Substantial testing is being conducted. I understand that county public health staff are working with the hospital on a mitigation plan. Can you tell us what's being done to keep the virus from spreading there? Also, I've been hearing from staff that at the hospital that contacts who are awaiting their tests are being asked to continue work. Is this proper infection prevention protocol?
Yeah, so they have identified a number of cases at Santa Rosa Memorial, and we are working with Santa Rosa Memorial to provide a rapid test for them. In other words, a fairly good turnaround time of 24 to 48 hours. So they're following all the protocols, and they have already tested a large group of their caregivers that were in that particular area where they found the initial cases. Over the course of the next week, we'll be working with them to get the rest of the folks in. As you know, after contact, those asymptomatic people are tested right away. And if they're asymptomatic, they're even testing them several times. And I think they're following all the correct protocols at this time in terms of testing, PPE, not providing patient care if they have not been tested yet, that sort of thing.
So somebody who's been tested, who's asymptomatic, who has had contact with somebody that has tested positive, that person should or should not be working?
Well, until they have a negative test, initial test, they should be in quarantine. If they have a negative test and they're wearing full PPE, those asymptomatic individuals who are contacts can go back. That's part of the CDC recommendation for healthcare providers. It's only if they're confirmed as being a COVID positive case that they're asked to isolate and not come back to work until they're done with that isolation period, which is 10 days plus 24 hours asymptomatic with no fever. So I think they're following the correct protocol at this time.
My other question, again, regarding the governor's new plan. So there's this 3-week mandatory wait period before counties can move from one tier to the next. As you said, we're in the most restrictive. That means it would take months for us to get to the lowest level of restrictions. And that's if the stars are aligned and the planet is perfectly aligned. Is there anything we can do to expedite this process, say through a waiver or some special consideration? Is there anything that can be done?
As you know, so the plan just got rolled out, and it is, frankly, very complex and a little confusing, but I would say that we don't know what to predict will happen. If we go into the red tier, it may be actually quite quick until we go to orange and yellow. We won't know, how quickly we'll fall into those tiers. So what we can say for sure is that we're in purple for 3 weeks, and let's all follow mitigation measures and do everything we can in our own power, our own responsibility to the community to try to move us along in the process of getting into the yellow tier.
If I could just direct to a question to the supervisors, have you supervisors gotten any feedback from the public or business, especially regarding these long wait periods, about this new process?
This is Susan Gorn. I haven't heard from many people yet, and I just have to say we're exhausted. And I'm personally delighted the hair salons are going to be open. But I just think people are frustrated and they're really nervous. I just heard from an older friend of mine saying we need to move really slowly. I think there are many people in this community nervous about what COVID potentially could do if it spreads much further. But it's not everybody. I'm also concerned about so many people who are trying desperately to get back to work.
Okay, thank you. We have one question from our viewers on Facebook, and this is for Dr. Mace. Doctor, they're asking, given that we've opened up hair salons and barbershops, why not other personal care services such as nail salons? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think the state has looked at the data, and they found that there are more cases associated with personal care services just because there's significantly more direct contact. And so I'm sure that if you query the state, they can give you the numbers as to what they found. They found that amongst hair salons and barbershops, we aren't seeing a lot of cases in the state, especially with mitigation measures. So that is why they've made the decision that we can move forward on hair salons and barbershops, but not on other personal care services.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. Let's go to Phil Barber. Phil?
Barbershops and hair salons. I think that you said yesterday, and maybe didn't use the same language today, but sort of repeated that there have been a handful of coronavirus cases related to these businesses. I wasn't clear. Did that mean within the county, or is that more, you're talking more about statewide?
No, that's within the county. We looked at our own data, and I believe we just found in the past months that we've had just a few cases amongst hair salons and barbershops. And we've also had a handful of cases in our indoor malls of people who were either employed in indoor malls or were shoppers. So it's hard to really nail down that that's what it came from. But for what it's worth, I think there were 9 persons identified as cases that said anything about having had any exposure in malls, and really just about, let's see, maybe 6 or so that had any exposure that they defined in terms of barbershops and hair salons.
That's great. That answered my next question. The only other thing I would ask about those 6 cases in barbershops and salons, any information you can give on where in the county those occurred, or any more detail other than the number? Doctor, I think you're muted.
Dr. Mace, you're muted. Yeah, sorry.
Sorry, I was just saying that I don't have that level of detail on the cases. And given the very low numbers, I don't think we'd identify any particular establishments.
Great, thank you.
Okay, let's go to Julie Johnson.
Hi there. This is a question for Dr. Mace. Dr. Mace, people are stuck at home because of the pandemic. The air is terrible. Children are going bonkers. I'm hoping you could be real with people about what they need to know about the risk of smoke pollution as they decide how to handle the outdoors.
Yeah, that's a really good question. The Air Quality Index, or AQI, is really important in helping us determine, how much risk there is to the air outside. Generally speaking, if you have an air quality index that's less than 20, that's normal. That's what we usually live under. And we're very lucky that we have clean air like that. When the air quality index goes above, say, 60 to 80, it's considered unsafe and harmful to breathe. And that's when we suggest that people wear the masks that we've been discussing for the fires and smoke to try to protect themselves from inhaling little particles that might create any kind of injury to the lungs. Now, a single exposure is probably not going to have a great effect, but ongoing exposure is what we're concerned about. So as our air quality index goes even higher, and I think the highest it got in Sonoma County was somewhere around 150 to 200, that's harmful. And that's when we ask people to stay indoors. I'm hoping that our air quality index will be falling now that we are resolving the issue of the smoke and the fires.
Thank you.
Okay, we have I have to take a quick break for a message to our Spanish-speaking viewers. Jose?
A las personas que se acaban de conectar y quieren escuchar en español por Zoom, vaya a parte de abajo en la pantalla a la derecha donde verá el signo del globo identificado como interpretación. Haga clic para seleccionar español. También les recordamos que estamos transmitiendo en vivo en la página del Condado de Sonoma a través de YouTube. Gracias.
Thank you. Thank you, Jose. Let's now go to Aaron Alday from the San Francisco Chronicle. Aaron?
Hi, thank you all so much for doing this. Dr. Mace, I had a question for you, a couple questions. One regarding the previous question about the cases you had mentioned from certain businesses. Can you say how many cases have been affiliated with the other kind of personal care operations? You mentioned that you had seen more cases connected with those, and that was why maybe those were more concerning. And then more broadly, I just had a question about what kind of lessons you might have learned from, what happened in May and June, and then with the surge, and what you learned from that and how you might be doing things differently this time around, just in sort of the way you kind of perceive the opening.
Okay, yeah, thanks for that question. So first of all, let me just put this in context, that it's very difficult for people to really pinpoint where they may have had transmission. So we need to know that, we ask for 14 days worth of exposures once we do a case interview. And often people have been to multiple different locations. They haven't just been to a gym or a hair salon. They've also, been to an indoor museum, the outdoor dining. And so sometimes it becomes a little bit more challenging to pinpoint that. And we have also found that where people work isn't necessarily where transmission is happening. So although they say they may work in a certain place, maybe only 15 to 20% of our cases are from work site transmission. They're more associated with household. So having said that, here in Sonoma County, we have not seen a lot of cases in personal services either, with the understanding that our personal services like nail salons and massage parlors were only open for a very short period of time, I believe sometime in June or July, but it wasn't for a long period. So we may not expect as many cases from that sector. As to what we learned from May and June, what we learned, I think one of the key takeaway messages was that when we didn't have a lot of interaction between people when they were sheltering in place, it was quite effective. Having said that, it's very hard to continue in that mode, as everybody here on this call, as well as everybody listening knows. So as we opened up, we did see a large number of cases. And so that's why I think the state has really effectively gone back to looking at different metrics to determine how we can reopen so that we do so in a very safe, data-driven, and sequential way. So I'm looking forward to the next few months as we open with this new tiered system, that hopefully we will see some progress.
Okay, thank you, Aaron. Let's go to KCBS Radio. Thank you for joining us.
Hi there. Thank you for taking my question. I also have a quick question for Dr. Mace. Are there any new trends in where we are seeing spread as opposed to where we aren't? Is it still just households?
Well, it's always been households. And I think here in Sonoma for at least the past couple of months, we've been tracking our cases in gatherings, both small and large gatherings. So that's been associated as well with transmission. And we've really been putting out the message that trying to limit gatherings as a result of that. We've also seen a little bit more transmission in travel related cases as people have been traveling domestically more. Again, those are also associated with gatherings, people going places for events like funerals or things like that. So I think those are the trends. Again, amongst contacts to cases, we have the highest positivity. 30 to 40% of people who are contacts to other cases have become cases themselves. So we are really focusing and prioritizing these high-risk groups. That, and of course, our vulnerable populations like the skilled nursing facilities and residential care facilities. That's where we've been seeing the majority of our cases.
Okay, thank you very much. We have another a question from our viewing audience, and maybe Tennis or somebody could answer this. Is the water safe in Rio Neto and Guerneville to drink? These are some of the evacuees coming back. Or maybe our supervisors can answer.
We have no indication there's been contamination of water reported to us by either Sonoma Water or smaller mutual water companies. If it's an individual well, you can contact our Emergency Operations Center and we give you advice on what to do in that instance.
Okay, great. Thank you, Tennis. Let's go to Mary Callahan again. Mary?
Is Chief Kavanaugh still there?
Yes, I'm still on.
Hi, thank you. I was just wondering if you had any breakdown on your dashboard, your updated figures for destroyed properties as to which of those are residences, the 252 destroyed properties.
Yes, so before I got on the call, when I pulled it up, it was single families. I had 126 for Sonoma County.
Thank
per
you.
family resident. And that'll be updated tonight and tomorrow as well.
Great. And is that something that's visible? Is that number visible on the map?
Yeah,
The
let me,
map?
Mary, let me check. I believe we do have that on our, if you go to our incident update page that we put out in the morning, usually.
I did see that this morning.
Yep. So if you go to the west zone, it's broken
Mhm.
out. You'll see on there on the bottom page, it'll say Sonoma County, you'll say structure destroyed, single family residence, and structures damaged. And it's got a list how that works. If you read that, it's single family, multifamily, commercial, mixed, infrastructure, and others. And that information's on there. So we've broken it out by the zones. We started that a couple days ago.
I have seen that. I'm just wondering if there's a sort of a, hour to hour update online somewhere.
No, not out to everybody. We put it out. We'll put it out tonight and in the morning. So it'll be twice a day.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, one last question, Martin Espinoza. Martin?
Hi, Dr. Mace. I was hoping you could clarify something. It was my understanding that that you had to spend 3 weeks at any one of the tiers once you got there. But you had said something about we could move quickly through tier red if we got there.
Yeah, I think you're pointing out that it's all kind of confusing, and we have had to reach out to CDPH to kind of get some clarity on it. My understanding is once you hit a tier, you're there for 3 weeks. But what we'll do, Paul, perhaps is clarify that for Martin and send you an email about it. But that's the way I have interpreted that so far.
I think that's correct, but I'm happy to help Martin and get clarification on that.
Again, just to maybe have you clarify. So at this point, there's really nothing we can do. I mean, that's the state's law. We can't bypass it. We can't get a waiver to go faster than what they're dictating.
No,
not at this time. We can be more restrictive, but not less restrictive than what the state has set for us.
Okay, thank you, Martin. And thank you, everybody. This is a reminder that we will not be holding a news briefing tomorrow. And on Wednesday, we will be returning to our regular schedule of having COVID-19 updates from Dr. Sundari Mace at 3:30 p.m. That's on Wednesdays and Fridays and Mondays. We will keep you posted on our future plans for other fire updates as circumstances evolve. However, the county, we will continue to provide regular updates about the status of the fires and the operations of our local assistance centers via social media and our website, socoemergency.org. Just a reminder that the LACs, our local assistance centers, will continue to be in operation through Friday, September 4th from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. each day. And there's one in Healdsburg at Healdsburg High School, and the other is in Guerneville at the Bank of America building on Main Street. And with that, we thank you all for being here and wish you a very pleasant good evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.